Imagine this. Two men found dead on a secluded hillside, dressed in suits and raincoats, with no visible injuries and, most strikingly, wearing homemade lead masks over their eyes. The only clues? A cryptic note, an empty water bottle, and a couple of wet towels. This isn't fiction, this is the real-life enigma of the lead masks. Join me as we unravel every chilling detail, examine the backgrounds of the mysterious men, reconstruct their final journey, and explore every wild, strange, and even otherworldly theory that has emerged from this truly unique cold case. On August 20th, 1966, a young boy named Jorge da Costa Alves was enjoying a sunny afternoon, flying his kite on Morro de Vintem, a relatively secluded elevation in Niterói, just across Guanabara Bay from Rio de Janeiro. The air was fresh after a recent rain, but as he moved through the dense vegetation, a different smell hit him, a foul odour of decay. Following his nose, Jorge stumbled upon a sight that would haunt him, and indeed baffle an entire nation for generations. Lying side by side, partially covered by grass, were the bodies of two men. They were dressed oddly for a hot Brazilian day, formal suits and raincoats, and the strangest detail of all? Each man wore a crudely fashioned lead mask over his eyes, similar to the protective eyewear worn by workers exposed to radiation. Jorge, understandably shaken, immediately reported his discovery. Due to the difficult and steep terrain of Vintem Hill, it took authorities, a small group of police officers and firefighters, until the following day to reach the bodies. The scene they encountered was unlike anything they had ever witnessed. There were no signs of struggle, no obvious wounds, no blood. It was as if the men had simply laid down and, well, died. Next to the bodies, investigators found a few puzzling items: an empty water bottle, a packet containing 2 wet towels. Most crucially, a small notebook containing a cryptic note written in Portuguese. The note read, 1630 be at the specified location, 1830 ingest capsules, after the effect protect metals, await signal mask. Intriguingly, police also found a receipt for the water bottle. This wasn't a typical crime scene. This was something else entirely, and the more they dug, the stranger it became. Who were they? The lives of the lead masked men. The victims were soon identified as Manuel Pereira da Cruz, 32, and Miguel José Viana, 34. Both were electronics technicians from Campos dos Goitacazes, a town several hundred kilometers northeast of Rio de Janeiro. They weren't just colleagues, they were close friends who shared a unique blend of technical expertise and esoteric interests. Manuel Pereira da Cruz. Manuel was described by those who knew him as a shy, quiet, and highly reserved individual. He was meticulous in his work and serious in his demeanour. While perhaps not as overtly spiritual as Miguel, he was clearly influenced by his friend and seemed to follow Miguel's lead in their joint ventures. He had a reputation for being trustworthy and dependable in his profession. Friends noted that he was generally a rational person, which makes his involvement in such an unusual event even more perplexing. He was the quieter counterpart to Miguel's more outgoing personality. Miguel José Viana. Miguel was the more outgoing, charismatic, and intellectually curious of the two. He was known to be intensely fascinated by the paranormal, mysticism, spiritualism, and particularly the occult and UFO phenomena. He reportedly led a spiritualist group in Campos dos Goitacazes, suggesting he was not just a passive consumer of these ideas, but an active participant and perhaps even a leader. This detail is crucial as it hints at the motivation behind their bizarre final act. He was an avid reader of books on spiritualism and had a known desire to transcend ordinary human experience. It was Miguel who was reportedly the driving force behind their more unusual pursuits, often bringing Manuel along. Their families and friends painted a picture of two seemingly ordinary men by day, employed as technicians, but with an increasingly unusual side that few fully understood. They were known to experiment with various concepts related to their shared spiritual and scientific curiosities. While their professional lives were grounded in logic and circuits, their personal interests veered into the unknown. It's this dichotomy, the practical electronics technicians and the esoteric seekers, that makes their story so captivating and so difficult to unravel. The shared secrecy and the intensity of Miguel's beliefs undoubtedly played a significant role in their fateful journey to Vintem Hill. The ill-fated journey. Police painstakingly pieced together Manuel and Miguel's final movements. August 17, 1966, Wednesday, Manuel and Miguel left their hometown of Campos dos Goitacazes. They told their families they were traveling to São Paulo to buy materials for work, possibly a used car or other electronic equipment. They reportedly carried a significant amount of money with them. Instead, they boarded a bus bound for Niterói, arriving around 2:30 p.m. Upon arrival, evidence suggests they purchased the waterproof coats found on their bodies from a shop in Niterói. They then went to a bar where they bought the mineral water bottle later found at the scene. The waitress at the bar described Miguel as very nervous and noticed he kept checking his watch, perhaps expecting someone, or simply anxious about their peculiar appointment. This is the last confirmed sighting of them alive. It's presumed they headed directly from the bar to Vintem Hill, following the cryptic instructions in their notebook. The note's first instruction, 16:30 be at the specified location, aligns with their known timeline. The second instruction, 18:30 ingest capsules, after the effect protect metals await signal mask, suggests a planned event for that evening. The baffling autopsy. This is where the case truly devolves into frustrating mystery. When the bodies were found on August 20th, they had already begun to decompose due to the humid Brazilian climate. To make matters worse, the coroner's office in Brazil at the time was reportedly overwhelmed and understaffed. When the autopsies were finally conducted, weeks after the discovery, the internal organs of both men were too badly decomposed for any reliable toxicology testing. This meant they could not determine if any poisons, drugs, or other substances were present in their systems. This lack of crucial forensic evidence would forever haunt the investigation. The official cause of death was simply listed as undetermined. There were no signs of external trauma, no bullet wounds, no stab marks, no indications of a struggle or foul play. This ruled out common causes of death, like robbery murder. This complete lack of physical evidence pushed investigators into a realm of speculation. Let's break down the strange artifacts found at the scene. The lead masks, the most iconic and perplexing detail. Why lead? Lead is known for shielding against radiation. Were they trying to protect themselves from something unseen? Was it a symbolic gesture? The suits and raincoats. Formal wear suggests a ritual or important meeting. Raincoats, despite recent rain, seemed excessive for an indoor meeting and perhaps unnecessary for hiking a hill. Were they for protection or part of a disguise? The cryptic note, 16:30 be at the specified location, 18:30 ingest capsules, after the effect protect metals await signal mask. This clearly indicates a planned event involving ingestion, protection, and an awaited signal. What kind of capsules? What metals? What signal? And what mask if they were already wearing them? Or did it refer to another mask? The water bottle and wet towels. These suggest dehydration or perhaps a need to clean or cool down. Were they intended to aid in the effect of the capsules? The missing money. If they indeed carried a large sum, its absence opens the door to robbery, even if no signs of struggle were present. Or was the money part of the deal that went wrong? The electrical knowledge. Both men were electronics technicians. Did this play into their purpose on the hill? The original note reportedly contained some electrical formulas, including Ohm's law E equals IR, further hinting at a technical or scientific endeavour. With a lack of concrete evidence, speculation runs rampant. Here are the most prominent and intriguing theories that have tried to explain the lead mask's case. Theory 1. The scientific spiritualists. Experiment gone wrong. This theory suggests that Manuel and Miguel were members of a spiritualist group, possibly led by an individual named Elcio Gomez. This group allegedly believed in achieving higher states of consciousness or making contact with extraterrestrials or spirits through psychedelic drugs. The scenario: the capsules were hallucinogenic drugs. The lead masks were to protect their eyes from intense light that they believed would accompany a spiritual or extraterrestrial encounter. The protect metals part could refer to protecting themselves from some form of energy, or perhaps an electrical device. The signal was the anticipated contact. Why it's plausible? It explains the strange attire, the masks, the note, and the lack of external trauma. It also aligns with the cultural context of spiritualist movements in Brazil at the time. There were also reports of a massive explosion and bright flash of light witnessed by locals on the same night, August 17th, which was initially mistaken for an earthquake. This could have been related to a homemade device or just a coincidence. Theory 2. Foul play, robbery, murder. The idea: despite the lack of struggle, some argue the men were lured to the hill, possibly robbed and then murdered. The lead masks and ritualistic elements could have been staged to mislead investigators, or were part of a bizarre act by the killers. Why it's less plausible? The total lack of injuries on the bodies makes a typical robbery murder difficult to explain. If they were forced to ingest something, there's no evidence. The elaborate nature of the masks and note seems like an excessive and risky diversion for simple robbers. Theory 3. An amateur science experiment gone wrong. As electronics technicians, perhaps Manuel and Miguel were engaged in an experimental project related to energy, electromagnetism, or even some form of communication. The lead masks could have been protective gear against unforeseen emissions or radiation from their own device. The capsules might have been something to enhance their senses or protect against side effects. Why it's intriguing? It connects directly to their skills. However, what kind of experiment would lead to their deaths, with no other equipment or evidence of the experiment found? Theory 4. Suicide pact, cult ritual. The idea: the men willingly ingested a lethal substance as part of a cult ritual or suicide pact, believing it would transport them to another dimension or plane of existence. The masks were part of this ritual. Why it's disturbing? It's plausible given the esoteric elements. However, finding the specific cult or group and proving their intent is impossible without further evidence. Theory 5. The UFO or extraterrestrial contact theory. The idea: the men were attempting to make contact with extraterrestrial beings. The signal was from a UFO. The masks were to protect them from blinding lights or unknown energies from an alien craft. On September 1968, a photographer named Ari Pereira captures an image of an unidentified flying object over the Vintem Hill. The object stays still for a few minutes and then goes away at great speed. Ari explains the object emitted a silver light so intense he had to use a yellow filter on his camera. Many other people in Niterói also say they saw the same object. Despite extensive investigation, including the exhumation of the bodies a year later, for further, though still inconclusive, testing for specific poisons, the lead mask case remains officially unsolved. No arrests were ever made, and no definitive cause of death was ever established. The police reports concluded that the deaths were likely accidental or self-inflicted, but without proof. The case continues to fascinate and frustrate. It highlights the challenges of forensic science in the past, especially when crucial initial steps are missed. The decomposition of the bodies and the subsequent inability to perform proper toxicology left an enormous void in the investigation. The lead mask case is a testament to the fact that sometimes reality is stranger than fiction. Was it a misguided spiritual experiment? A scientific endeavour gone horribly wrong? A bizarre ritualistic suicide? Or something even more sinister, shrouded in misdirection? The enigma of Manuel and Miguel, lying dead on Vintem Hill with their lead masks, remains one of Brazil's most enduring and captivating mysteries. It serves as a haunting reminder that some secrets are buried so deep, even time and intense scrutiny cannot bring them to light.